let me ask you a question. Have you ever been sat there and just thought, I wish I could play Daytona USA online again on the Dreamcast? Well, worry no more, because here in this video we're going to show you, hopefully quickly, exactly how you can do that. Firstly, let's start off with the basics. In order to get anywhere with this guide, we're going to need a real Dreamcast dial-up modem, some sort of controller, and some sort of memory card. And we can see here we've got the real Dreamcast controller with a real Dreamcast VMU. That could also be one of the 4x memory cards that you can get. Or if you want to go newer, we've also got the Xbox Series controller with a retro time adapter, which is a little Bluetooth adapter. Let me see if I can just... little Bluetooth adapter that's actually very similar to the original controller. You can see here they're almost identical. It's just a tiny little bit bigger. Just to confirm, if you do go with the blue retro adapter, you actually get a built-in virtual memory card there. You get a virtual VMU which you can put your saves on, so that's why it's a viable option in this scenario. So as I say, this guide is all about getting the Dreamcast online, and you can see here I've unplugged it. This is the dial-up modem, and you'll know you've got the right device because it'll say something like line, and this is an RJ11 socket. And we can see here the dial-up modem, you'll probably normally find it just clicked into the back of the console there. And we can see my Dreamcast isn't quite as standard as you may notice, but that's okay, it's just got a slightly different shell. And the difference with mine is I've got the GD-EMU device in there with an SD card, and that's replacing the laser unit. As I say, if you're not familiar with what the GD-EMU is, here's the website for the original creator of the device. And you can see here it's just an SD card based ODE for the Dreamcast, and it will do GD-ROM and CD-ROM emulation, and it's got full support for all the audio and all the different bits and pieces. It's been around quite a while, and the genuine ones, which is what I've got here, are somewhat difficult to come across, but you can get clone devices if you so wish. Your mileage may of course vary, but this is kind of what you're looking at price-wise for the clones on AliExpress. If you've actually still got your original laser unit and it is working, that's okay, because you'll be able to burn off discs. So in that scenario, you would need a disc burner, like a CD rewriter, and you'll need some blank CDRs. With the obvious basics out the way, it's now time to talk about the more specific parts that you need for this project. And please don't let what you're seeing in front of you overwhelm you. I'll talk you through all of this. So the project is based on something called DreamPi, and that comes from the Raspberry Pi, which is kind of crucial to this project if you're keeping it simple. Okay, so we need to pick a Pi to start this project, and we've got the Pi 3 Model B+, which is still available. We've got the Pi 4, which is still available, and we've got the more recent Pi 5, which I need to check if it actually supports this, and I'll let you know by the end of the video. These are both Pi 3 Model B+. This is just a brand new one that I found, and this is one that I've actually been using for DreamPi. Now, the Pi 5 is actually the same form factor as the Pi 3, but if we look at the Pi 4, you'll see they're inverted. And the difference is the Pi 4 and Pi 5, I believe these are USB 3, and the Pi 3 only supports USB 2. But it's not going to hugely matter for this project. I would probably stay away from the Pi 4 because of the awkwardness with the cases, because, you know, whatever. On the Pi 5, they actually went back to this configuration. Once you've picked which generation of Pi you're going to use, the next crucial thing is going to be the power supply. And we can see here on the Pi 3, we've got a micro USB-B power supply, and on the Pi 4 or the Pi 5, we've got USB-C. And it's important to get the right power supply for the job, and it also needs to be the right wattage. And we can see here we've got the genuine Pi power supply for the Pi 3, which is that USB micro B, and I believe they're 2 watts or so. Can't quite make that out, but I believe they're 2 watts or so. I'll put it in the description for that. Once you've worked out which Pi you're going to go for, and we'll just assume you're going for the 3 Model B+ at this stage, but you're going to need a memory card, and this comes in the form of a micro SD card. This particular one I think is 32 gig, but the one in my Pi is actually a 16 gig that works totally fine. I think you might be able to go down to 8 if you were really pushing it, but they're so cheap nowadays, what are you going to do? With the Pi and the storage done, the next crucial thing is actually the modem. And to talk to this, we need some sort of plug-in dial-up USB modem. And we can see here, this is a Dell one, which is supported. And I'll put up now what these supported options are. To connect the Pi into your network, you're even going to need to do it over wireless, or my preferred method is cable, just to keep things simple. And this is just a very small RJ45 or Ethernet cable, and anything that's Cat5e or above will be perfectly adequate for the job. Just make sure it's the length you need to get to your router, because of course this would need to click into the Pi here, and the other side would go into your router. The last major part of the puzzle is actually what they call a line voltage inducer. And if you're in PAL regions, you need 2 times 9 volts, which would be the 18 volts. Or if you're in an NTSC region, you can actually get away with 9 volts for the induced voltage. Now you can either do that, you could make that yourself, or you can induce it over USB. And this one I purchased on eBay. Again, I'll put some links to this, but this is just taking USB for power, and it's going to be inducing 18 volts onto the RJ11 cable there. The last thing you might want to consider is actually these Pis in these boxes. What shall I do here? Let's just get this one out, shall we? Just to have a quick look. If I can get it out of the box, there we go. Yeah, if you have a look at a Pi, this is obviously the Pi 5 here, brand new. You can see you've got all the little parts on the back. That's the SD card slot there. You've got this pin header here. And of course, if you dropped this and damaged this, you'll end up breaking it. So you probably don't want to do that. So you probably want a nice little case. And I quite like these style cases, which are heatsink cases. And they've got some little thermal pads, and they just sit on the CPU and the memory controllers and what have you, and just help dissipate the heat to make sure that this device lasts a lot longer. So with all those things considered, the next step is to move on and configure the device. Okay, so here we are on the Mac, and I've just Google searched DreamPi. We want to go to the Dreamcast Live website. Anywhere on that website will be fine. Hover over downloads and actually click downloads. Don't look at the drop down, click downloads. Once you've done that, you'll see the options that you've got. And we can see here we've got the DreamPi 1.9, or we've got the 1.9 for the Pi 4 or the 02. I'm not covering the 02 because I think it's going to be out of scope of this. I've actually just checked. The Pi 5 is not currently supported, apparently. So definitely my preference is the Pi 3, seeing as they're still available. So what we want to do is we want to hit download there, and that's going to download that. And whilst we're waiting for that to download, we'll also need to download the Berliner Etcher for Mac. And we will reject all of the cookies and download that as well. And yeah, if you're on the Mac there, what you're going to look at is, what are we looking at here? So ARM64 is Apple Silicon, and for x64 is the old Intel Macs. So if your Mac is like an M1, M2, something like that, that's the one you want. If you've got an Intel Mac, that's the one you want. Here we are with the 2 downloads now successfully on the Mac. And we just need to run the Etcher first, so I'm just going to double click that. And we can see I've got the option to drag and drop it into applications, and I will replace the current version I've got, which will just update it, and now I know that's on the latest version. So I can just close that and eject that and delete that download. So the next thing to do is actually put the SD card into the Mac and then etch that to the SD card. With the SD card plugged into the Mac and the Etcher open, we just select from File. Then we're also going to need to select the target, which will be the SD card. And then simply we just need to hit flash. Okay, so there's a slightly different step on Windows. On the downloads page, if you scroll down, you can also grab the Win32 disk imager, so we're going to download that as well. Okay, so here we are with the Win32 disk imager extracted and the DreamPi image extracted, and I've actually gone ahead and installed the Win32 disk imager, and we can see over here We've got the SD card in and it's in slot, or it's mounted, sorry, as drive F. So we're just going to run the disk imager. And then we just have to select the image, which let me just find that, which is here. And the drive is the only drive available. And we will just hit write, which is going to wipe drive F. Fine. We're just going to click OK to that. And that should be it done. So now we just safely remove the SD card and we will proceed to the Pi. Okay then guys, so with the memory card now etched or imaged, what you have is you have the empty Pi, the completely blank Pi, and we need to just pop that memory card into the card slot. And obviously when I showed you earlier, you saw it's going to be labelled to the bottom. Alright, just going to try and see if I can do that. There you go. Okay. And then we just need to connect some cables to it. So we need 3 cables. We need HDMI for video output, power and Ethernet. We don't strictly need HDMI. The reason I'm doing this is because we need to find out what the IP address is of the Pi when it's booted. Now you can either do that through the video output, which is what I'm going to show you here, or you could do it through looking at your DHCP leases, which I'll also briefly pop in a minute. So what you want to do is just connect the HDMI and the Ethernet first, and then connect the power last. And I've actually told a porky here, you also need a USB keyboard, so connect that as well. And here you can see the Pi is now booting up. This is the direct video capture out of that HDMI port. And eventually we will come to the login prompt. And the login prompt is going to be for the username Pi and the default password, which is Raspberry. And I'll put that on screen as well for you. And once you're logged in, you want to type ifconfig, one word, and that will give you the IP address. And here you can see the iNet address 10.1.4.10, and that's the IP address. I did say I'd briefly mention the other way of doing this. If you didn't have the video output, if you didn't have a TV or something, and you didn't have a USB keyboard, what you can do is you can go to your router, which is normally maybe something like 192.168.0.1 in a web browser, and you can bring up your web interface of your router and you can see your DHCP leases. It's going to be different for every router, so I can't get into it too much, but you can see here mine's a bit weird because I'm using OpenSense, which is a firewall. But if I have a look at my DHCP leases, here I can see that IP address has been leased against the MAC address of a Raspberry Pi. And I obviously have tagged this as DreamPi before, but if you wanted to find out quickly what the IP address of the Pi was, you could have a look at the leases coming out of your DHCP server, which will be a service running on your home router. Okay then, so with the Pi fully configured now, for the basics at least, we now need to assemble the puzzle. So it's pretty self-explanatory. We'll pop the VMU into the controller. We'll plug the controller into port 1. We've got the video out and we've got the power out. And then we've got the Raspberry Pi with the power still going into it, Ethernet still going into it. And we just need to assemble our modem contraption. So I'll take the shorter end of this cable and plug it into the Dell modem with a nice little click. And I'll plug that into any one of the USB ports. I'll plug the other side of the phone line into the Dreamcast, which is going to be hard because I can't see. There we go. And I will plug the inducer into the Pi as well. Now, if things are going well, we should see 2 green lights. And it will take a moment for that to happen if it's going to happen. And I think what I might actually do here is I might just remove and re-add the power. So just whilst we're waiting for the Raspberry Pi to reboot, I just wanted to show you what we're about to boot on the Dreamcast. So we're about to boot up what they call Planet Web 3.0 or 3.0. And you can get it in lots of different places. This is a pretty good place to get it here. You can click on that image and then you can go show all. And we just want the default zip not the Google version. And I'm going to have to trust that you know how to either burn that to a disk or that you know how to get it onto your GD EMU. But you can see it does give you some basic information here how to burn it if you needed to use a disk. And there we have it. We've now got the 2 green lights after a reboot. So that's what it needed there. It needed it all connected on power on. So that's the whole circuit set up. So now what we can do is we can turn the Dreamcast on and do the configuration on that side. The iconic Dreamcast music. Well, here we are loading up Planet Web then on the Dreamcast, and you'll see it's just going to take us a few moments. It's going to kick a few errors because there's no file on the VMU, which is fine. And eventually we'll get presented with the sort of splash screen dashboard of Planet Web. Okay, so you want to start off by pressing Start, and then you want to come down and across to Options. And then we want to move the cursor up to Internet Connection. We can see here it's a bit unusual that it thought that there was some error with the file, because there is a file. So what you want to do is select a name of some sort, a real name. That can be your gamer handle, a user login. Mine is quite long. I may need to shorten that, I will be honest. And a password that has to be password all lowercase. The dial-up number is 111-1111, and by default you want your DNSs to be 0000 on the primary and the secondary, just like on the screen now. Okay. On this screen you want to leave it all as its defaults, if it, unless it's been changed. But the important one is that the modem initiation should be AT and F0. Dial should be tone, not pulse. Area code should be off. Blind dial seems to be on or off depending on what people say, but blind dial can be left on. The proxy page should be saying no and everything should be blank, and then you click OK. And then we should have the option to save the settings. Now if everything's gone to plan, we should be able to just connect and dial our dial-up internet. And congratulations, if you've made it this far to the DreamPi website, the automatic redirect within DreamPi has worked. You are on the internet and the process is done. You've successfully set up DreamPi. So as I say, congratulations on that. There's some more bits to look at in a moment, but for now, just take a moment to appreciate you are in 2025 online on a Dreamcast. So at the start of the video, I said I promised that we would be playing Daytona USA online, so now let's get to it. So we need to select the VMU to load up the game save. We can see this is just a game save I've quickly created. And then the game's going to load up. And we're going to go into the menus. And we're not going to go to Net Battle just yet. We're going to go to Homepage. And then we're going to click B for back and A for exit. And then on this page, we're going to move the cursor up and press the key. And we're now going to wait for it to dial the internet. Now, if you've got to this screen, congratulations, then it looks pretty good. I had a lot of problems getting to this screen originally, and it can be down to port forwarding, or it could also be down to DNS settings as well. So I had some troubleshooting at the end of this video, but for now, if you've got this far, just move on with it. So we're going to select a username, and I'll put in Retro Bristolian. Let me double check on the password. Okay, so I was actually barking up the wrong tree there. I should have read it. You need to sign up if you've not signed up before, and there's a really easy way to do that. So you can actually do the sign up on the Dreamcast itself, but if you don't have the keyboard especially, it could be a bit time consuming. So the easiest way might be just to, on your laptop, go to seganet.dreampipe.net, get to this page, which is the exact same sign up page, and then just press sign up. And then you can pick a username, password, email address, country, city, state if you require it, and submit that. And that might be a bit quicker. And also you can save it to your password manager or something like that, just so you have the details for future reference. Okay, so I've just typed in my previously set up sign-in details, and hopefully this works. Hey, yeah, there we go. So it's taken my login details, and I can download that crucial key file that we're going to need. It's going to ask me where I want to save it. I'm going to save it on that particular VMU. And that should be it. So I think now, do we just pull the left trigger? Yes, pull the left trigger, and we'll say exit to game. So here we are. We can now see we've got the two files. We've got the save game and the key. So I'm just going to try and start up the game now. And this time we can go to net battle. OK to that. We're going to load that key again. And now we're going to see if we can dial the connection. And there we have it. So let's see how we get on. I've got to enter a handle. Hang on a second. There you go. See, the handle has to be a bit shorter. So I'll just call myself Retro B for now. And yes, these are the default servers from DreamPi. And there's currently nobody online at the moment, but you can see here are the lobbies here, and we'll be able to join a lobby. And of course, I can type. I can just say hi. I've got the Dreamcast keyboard plugged in, and you can see I'm online, ready to go. So if anybody wants to join in, feel free to join me online. So there we have it then. So what do you think? Did I do okay? Did I explain it good enough? Let me know in the comments. If you feel it was useful, drop me a like. You can see here, we've got the DreamcastLive.net page. There's currently 44 online games, and we've got 4x4 Evolution. I mean, that looks quite fun. The Alien Front online, never played it, but that looks quite fun. Aero dancing stuff, I'd like to get into that. Choo Choo Rocket, absolute classic. Daytona, obviously, as you saw. DD Planet, that came out of Japan. That looks quite interesting, actually. I'd like to give that a go. This Driving Strikers looks interesting. F355 Challenge, I'll let you be the judgment of what you think of that. The golf game, that looks quite colourful, so I'll be interested to see that. Internet Game Pack, I've had mixed problems with that, so hopefully I'll be able to show that online soon. Pool game, I mean, absolute classic, playing a bit of pool. It's a real shame that Metropolis Street Racer is just leaderboards. If that was racing, that could be a game changer. I have no idea what that is. Monaco, what's that? Multiplayer. That'd be cool. I'd be quite up for playing that. Not really into my sports games. The Tetris game, big fan of Tetris. Can't wait to try that. Ooga Booga, I'm not sure I've warmed to that game just yet. Bowling, willing to give that a go. Fantasy Star, shoot me down. I've never played it. It's on the to-do list. Planet Ring, I'm looking forward to. Pod. Quake, I love Quake, but I'm just not any good at it. Samba de Amigo, I love that game. It's only leaderboards. What are you going to do? San Francisco Rusk again. If that was racing, that would be quite cool. The Sega Swirl, very interested to try that. Sega Tetris, Another thing I'm interested to look at, Speed Devils. I believe this is a major breakthrough that they've got this back online. So that's very cool. But I'm not too familiar with it. Starlancer, that looks an interesting game. Toy Racer, I don't know either way. Again, sports aren't really my thing. Worms, definitely up for trying that. So, as I say, hopefully you found the video useful. I'm actually going to follow up with the troubleshooting as a separate video. And I'm also going to do another follow-up video showing DCNet, which is an alternative that runs on DreamPi. And there's some pretty exciting stuff coming out of that, so I'll show that in a separate video. But as I say, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, whatever. And I hope you're having a wonderful day.